An interesting update from Pinnacle Silver and Gold today. Lots to talk about with Robert Archer, Bob Archer, who's the CEO and president of the company. Bob, good to see you.
Likewise, Alistair. Great to be
So tell
back.
us about this latest release. You've been exploring on your Mexican projects. What's the latest?
Well, yeah, been continuing the mapping and sampling both underground and on surface at El Potrero in Durango, and some really interesting developments in that the results we released today have been high grade results from underground for the most part from those the two mines of Dos de Mayo and Pinos Cuates, but sampling at surface above those two mines has identified the veins on surface, which sort of implies some level of connectivity between the underground workings and mineralization at surface, which a little bit of a gap there that we'll have to fill in with drilling at some point down the road. But it's certainly nice to see that connectivity there. And interestingly, the grades that we're getting at surface are not only high gold grades, but much higher silver grades than we were seeing underground as well. The highest grade we got underground previously was, I think, 520 grams silver, and on surface now we're seeing several samples that are more than a kilo, and in one case more than 2 kilograms of silver. So there may be some vertical zonation there with silver increasing towards surface, but as we continue to open that up, it bodes well for the extent of that zone of mineralization. And just on that, there was a small underground working just sort of above and along strike slightly from the Pinos Cuartas mine and mineralization, a little working called Jabali, and it had some really nice grades in there, again with silver over a kilo. It's certainly looking very nice along surface. And the other thing that was included in the release was that we're starting to better define a parallel vein called El Capulín. Which is about 200 meters to the southwest of the Dos de Mayo vein, and roughly parallel. And we've defined it along a similar strike length that is covered by the known underground workings on Dos de Mayo of about 375 meters. That seems to be a fairly productive strike length from what we've seen so far. Even though, I mean, the vein's been traced for 1,600 meters to date, so there's still potential to expand farther. But seeing El Capulín extended or expanded over that same length is certainly very interesting. And there's some small underground workings there as well. But so we've been sampling those and a little bit on surface and some old trenches and that sort of thing. But it's really quite well defined, and particularly over the southeastern half, which is about 100 and no, it's yeah about 120 meters or so along strike, and getting grades up to 6 grams gold and more consistent grades there than what we were seeing previously in the other mines, where gold the grades can be a little bit more variable, some extremely high grades, but then you get some lower grade portions as well. Whereas on El Capulín, it's much more consistent, which is really interesting as well.
Yeah, so I mean, quite a lot to talk about there, but the first point that occurs to me is that this project or this undertaking that you're doing here seems to be expanding both vertically and laterally in the sense that the underground is linking with the surface. So I assume that that means that there'll be more mineralization overall that you can potentially encounter in that regard. And at the same time, you're
Mhm.
extending outwards onto this new vein that you mentioned, which means there'll be more mineralization extended horizontally, as it were. Although obviously the depth is also something we need to talk about. So you're extending in all directions, really, here, Bob, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, it's quite exciting in that regard. It's sort of it makes one almost you almost have to think in three dimensions on a project like this, which can be tricky at times. But because the other thing to take into consideration is the topography there, because we're on a little bit of a slope. It's not too steep where we're working, but the mineralization at El Capulín is the surface there is a little bit higher than it is, on the Dos de Mayo system at Pinos Cuates as well, and so with these epithermal systems, the mineralization tends to occur at a fairly specific vertical location, if you like, or horizon, I guess is a better word. And seeing it a little higher at Capulin is really encouraging, because it sort of implies that the mineralization could extend down to the point where we're seeing it at the other mines, which would imply a vertical extent of somewhere in the order of 200 meters. So that's in itself is fairly typical of these epithermal systems, not just in the Topia district, but elsewhere in Mexico. So if that's the case, obviously we'll have to define that with drilling down the road. But that would really add to the overall resource package down the road. So quite excited about that as well.
Yeah, so you mentioned drilling down the road. That brings me to my next obvious question, which is what's next for you guys on the ground?
Well, it's going to take a little bit of time to permit surface drilling for a variety of reasons, but we're hoping that we can get started on underground drilling at the Pinos Cuates and Dos de Mayo mines, and so we've made an application to the environmental authorities here in Mexico, and hoping to basically get an exemption from permitting, if you like, getting them to, agree that we don't really need a permit to drill underground, because there is no surface disturbance, and it has no impact on the environment. So if we can do that, then we should be able to move to underground drilling on those mines, and that would be extremely important from a number of points of view, because uh, it would let us drill at closer spacing. And so it would be almost like definition drilling in a sense, on the mineralized zones. And because the underground workings are effectively either in the guts of the system or immediately adjacent to it, it allows us to sort of delineate, the extent of the vein and the mineralization without a lot of footage, really. The holes can be quite short, and so we can drill more of them. So it ends up being a very cost-effective type of program with no impact on the surface environment. So we're got our fingers crossed at this point. It's always difficult to anticipate what the authorities might do, but if they do agree with us, then we should be able to move to that as our next major step, really, in terms of defining the system.
I mean, it certainly seems to be a good time to be drilling for silver and gold in terms of the commodities prices environment, which is the backdrop to all of this. And you guys are front and center in certain investors' minds. What's going to happen? Do you feel that this high gold price and high silver price is giving you a sort of added extra momentum, Bob? How does it look from your perspective as a junior exploration operator?
Yeah, absolutely, Alistair. It's nice to see after so many years in the doldrums, and the junior markets are finally heating up. People are able to finance, and so it's really great from that perspective, and we're getting a lot of support from investors and shareholders, and so on. So And it's nice to have a project where we're getting, really good success, great results, and moving the project forward, fast tracking it as much as we possibly can. But as you know from previous conversations, we have a plant there as well that we're looking to rebuild, and so we've been working on those plans, and when we do get to the underground drilling, we'll have to do some underground preparatory work prior to that, just to make sure that it's safe, and the drill stations are prepared and so on for the drillers and for our crew. So there will be a little bit of preparatory work there as well, and also we're looking to fly a lidar survey over the property in the coming weeks. So that's another thing that we're looking forward to, because that should help to define the main structures that are hosting these veins, as well as the lidar can identify old mine workings as well that may be hidden under vegetation and that sort of thing. So that should really help advance the project as well. So it's full speed ahead right now. All systems are go, as they say.
Indeed. So it's great to see such high grades coming out of your project, and we look forward to lots of good and positive news flow in the coming months. Well, thanks very much for talking us through it today.
Thanks a lot, Alistair. Pleasure as always.